All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Tim Koo, and thank you for attending our panel tonight. It's aptly named First Year, A Reflection. I am aware that there's many second years, so I mean, we could use this also as a conversation with each other and our experiences as well. That can be another aspect that we can discuss. But I will be your moderator for this evening. Our panelists consist of second years in the PASA program who have all made it to their second year. I will let them all tell a little bit more about themselves and their experiences, but tonight we have Casey Simon, Vanessa Chu, Andrew Barton, and Alan Weinreb. We have given them a few questions to answer in advance, just to talk about their narrative of their first year. But if you have any questions for them, there will be an opportunity to ask them after they're finished answering some of the questions I have. For others, you can also participating by posting a question in the Google Hangout. Immediately following the panel, are you still doing dinner?
Yeah.
No? Okay. Well, if you all want to have dinner afterwards, we can all get together and organize something. And the invite is open.
Yeah.
So, without further ado, let's start the panel. So I emailed them a set of questions for them about a few. First, just let's go down the line. Briefly describe your background, what led you into choosing PASA and student affairs as a career.
Am I up first? Oh. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Casey. My path to student affairs was I was an RA in undergrad. That's where I got the majority of my involvement. And so I took that housing path that you might hear people talk about when they were an RA in undergrad. And so I loved my experience. And then after that, I worked for 2 years as an assistant resident director at my undergrad institution, which was UC Santa Barbara. And then I took a year off and applied to graduate school. And I chose here for a couple different reasons. I chose the PASA program because it's a good program. I liked my visit when I was here. And I knew a lot of people that I looked up to in the field had gone through this program, so that was another big reason for me. And then also, ultimately, I want to settle down in Southern California, so I thought that graduate school would be a great opportunity to start to build my network in Southern California before I go out and start working. And so, yeah, that's about it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Vanessa. I'm second year, obviously. I went to UCLA as my undergrad. As a first-generation student, for me, it was kind of hard to transition from high school to college. I don't know if you guys had that issue, but I did, even though I didn't live too far away from home. It was about like 45 minutes away. But I had a really good academic advisor who was there for me beyond the academics. So we were, much more than just academic advisor. We were mentor-mentee as well as friends. And so that's how I got into academic student affairs. And I was between a few programs. I was between UCLA, USC, and Claremont. But ranking-wise, USC was one of the higher ones, so hence why I came to USC.
I'm Andrew, and like a lot of people, I was an RA at some point. Can I just get a show of hands? How many people were an RA? Let the record show that's many people. But for me, it wasn't being an RA that really led me to want to do student affairs. Being an RA was what led me into being an orientation advisor. And in that experience, I got to work with a number of different departments and offices on campus and get into some of the academic advising portions as well, which I really liked. And that was more of what I think really got me to think, yeah, this is actually something I'd like to do rather than just kind of dabble with. So since I actually went to USC for undergrad, so I knew a lot of people in the PASA program because a lot of them were RCs when I was an RA. So I was very familiar with it. Decided to take a year off, which ended up being 5. So that's more than I wanted, but that's what happened. Yeah, and USC was the only place I applied, so I'm glad I got in. And here I am.
Very nice. My name is Alan Weinreb. Andrew and I graduated the same year, but I graduated from a small liberal arts university back in 2009. I took some time off. I worked within a business setting for a while, then I became a police officer, and then decided that I wanted to get into student affairs based off the experiences that I had in undergrad. Knew that I wanted to be on a college campus in this type of setting. So it's so positive, energetic, and everybody's happy. There's the smiles. So, like it was said before, I was an RA, just like most of the people here, involved in campus activities, Greek life, student life, orientation, judicial affairs, and it kind of just hit me when, like, I didn't seek this out. It just kind of hit me one day. I was like, I want to work in student affairs. I didn't know what it was called at the time, but I knew I wanted to work on a college campus. Had a few fraternity brothers that went through this program, a few family friends that went through this program, and this was the only school I applied to. I was blessed to get in.
We also have a fifth panelist, Sarah.
Sorry, I was a bit late.
That's okay.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a second-year PASA student. Why I winded up at the PASA program. I was very involved. I went to UC Riverside for my undergrad. I was very involved in Greek life there. I was president of my sorority. I was very involved in student life, both working in their mentorship program there, their Trio Scholars program, as well as orientation. So I fell in love with student affairs there, but I was also in love with psychology. So I took a year off to figure out which I wanted to pursue. So I worked over in med school in Miami, and I was working in the registrar's office there under a practicing psychologist. She was kind of working the registrar's office there, which is really interesting. That was kind of just fate how that worked out. So we had a lot of discussions about which way I wanted to go. And then working under the registrar there, I realized I could do her job pretty easily, but you need the credentials to get there, unless I wanted to slowly work my way up to that position. So I decided to take the student affairs route. I still consider psychology for a future career. Yes, that's how I ended up here. Oh, and I chose USC because my sister did her undergrad at USC. She also she also did the MHP program, the online program. So when it came to choosing a school, of course she was like, "Oh, you have to go to USC." So I applied, and I got in, and it just was a perfect fit.
All right, thanks everyone for giving a little background of what led you into student affairs. So let's just think about first year, last year in PASA. If you could just highlight some challenges that you faced during your first year, and also highlight any successes that you've also experienced and things you learned. Anyone can go. I'm going to go in order.
Okay, I'll start then. Let's see, we'll start with challenges then. For me, I'm a commuter, so I commute from West Covina, about, 30 minutes away from campus or so, east. However, I also work at UCLA, as you can tell from here, in healthcare as well. That commute was hard, and so I would be waking up at 5:45 in the morning, out on the freeway by 6, drive to UCLA by 7:30, work there, and then class starts at 4, so leave around 2, drive to USC, have class from 4 to 6, or actually no, I would do the double class, so 4 to 10, get home by 10:30, be in bed by 12, midnight, 1, 2, who knows, start the whole day all over again. So that was one of the challenges. However, it's actually really doable. It really is, because if you're commuting and you think it's really hard, tough it out, it'll be great, because this semester, it gets crazier for me. So I have an internship on campus. I'm taking 4 classes. I have an internship over at Claremont, one of the Claremont colleges, and I also still work at UCLA. So you guys will be fine, I promise you. One of the strengths, I guess, good about the program, you have your cohort, as you can tell, second years, we love each other, so we're all here for each other. And basically you just learn to time manage, because you have so much going on that it just helps you better at managing your time.
So I'll jump off of that managing time thing. So one of the challenges, I think, which you're probably already facing, is just there is a lot of it, especially in the reading department. And I think with the reading especially, it's easy to put it off or to pretend like you don't need to do it or to skip big chunks of it. But I definitely found that it's far more hopeful not to do that and to really try and keep on top of it as much as possible and still be able to recognize those moments when maybe you need to skim something and go back and read it later. But so one of the challenges I think with that also is with being very busy and sort of a challenge for me also because most of my friends are about my age and are not currently in grad school. And so they all have things they want to do on the weekend or at this time or that time. And they're like, why aren't you available? And I'm like, well, sorry, I'll see you in the summer. So that's a little bit of a challenge, I think, is still trying to maintain connections that you have and not letting those lapse because you've got so much schoolwork and doing what you can to still find time for your social needs and your just personal time that you need that is not PASA. But I think that's definitely an important thing. I don't know if this is quite what Tim's looking for as far as successes, but there's just a couple of classes that I feel like I really, really enjoyed. And there aren't any that I thought, oh, that was awful, I hated it, but some that really, really stuck out for me. And one of them was ethnography. Hi, ethno. But so the reason why I mention it is because it's something that most students take in their second year. Although our cohort, I think we had 9 people who took it in their first year in the spring, and a couple of them are right here with me. And I at least found it really enjoyable and just very invigorating class, very exciting. So I don't know if you feel like taking it early, go for it.
Strength and weakness. What I'd say is identifying your limitations. It's a big thing, and that was a challenge that I faced last year. I had a schedule that mirrored Vanessa's, different capacities that I was working in, but similar schedule. And the fact that my cohort was always cognizant of what was going on in my life, and they were looking out for me, and that's what your cohort will do. They'll look out for you, as well as your mentors. But I didn't always listen to them. I felt like I could take on everything, and I still feel like that, and I still do. But I'm aware, and I listen, and especially when people tell me to take a step back and you don't need to be involved in everything or do everything. You're gonna need your me time. You're gonna see that with this program. It's gonna get overwhelming, but you have a huge network for support. You see how many second years are here, and they're here to support you guys also. So lean on each other. Hang out with your cohort, be friends with everybody, and identify your limitations. Know where your weaknesses are, and work on those to make them strengths.
I guess I'll go. Last year, I started off the first semester with just one graduate assistantship, 20 hours, kind of average. Well, not an average assistantship, but kind of average time amount. And then the second semester, I picked up a second one. I think the biggest challenge for me was also because I was living by myself. And for those of you who live by yourselves, that's a little bit more of a challenge because you don't have that network at home, to make you food, to kind of pick up the slack. So if you don't get something done, it's kind of just like it doesn't get done. So a lot of things didn't get done, like laundry or food. I was eating on campus, so I was like, oh, I'm not going to eat. It's just how it is. So I think that was one of my biggest challenges, and also with that was finding the confidence in your positions. You'll find yourself kind of thrown into positions that require a lot from you, and all of a sudden you're this university representative, which I'd been in before, but being a graduate student is just kind of a different level. So there's a bigger expectation from your supervisors, I guess you could say. So I think just with that, I'd probably just say finding the confidence, go for it. You'll find that you're better at your job if you do it with confidence. And your supervisors will give you more responsibilities if you do it with confidence. Success would probably be me coming into my own in that, finding that confidence. For my marshal position, because I started it at the during the spring, kind of a couple weeks already into the semester. That was a little bit difficult, but now I feel very comfortable in the position, and we picked up a second GA there, so being a mentor for him and helping him out because our office is going through a big time of transition. Also, I wanted to echo piggyback off of your find time for yourself. I was living by myself last year, by campus, working all day on campus, living by campus, going to school on campus. It was just a bit much, and especially because I didn't come home to something that was like friends, and you could chit-chat about whatever's going on. So definitely finding that time where you're like, okay, I need to step out of step out of USC. And so I know personally for me, I made that transition by moving away from campus, and I have a dog. If anyone's friends with me, they know that I have a dog. But definitely making that time to do stuff for yourself is really important.
So my first year, I'll never forget walking across campus and being called out by a couple of second years in the PASA program, and they said, "Hey, Casey, why do you look so sad?" And I remember that moment because it made me realize, like, oh my gosh, like I'm really overwhelmed with a lot of things. And I realized that first semester for me, since I had taken a break from school for 3 years, it was a big adjustment that I didn't realize was going to be a big adjustment coming back to school. And so that was really hard because in my head, when I started, I thought like, oh, life will just continue and I'll just take on this. This wasn't going to be a big deal. And it is a big deal. So I think what I learned, though, was, like a lot of people have touched on, was how to prioritize your time and how to be efficient with your time. I think something that I learned is how to divide up reading. Whether we do it efficiently that much with this year is not, but we did a little bit. But I would suggest dividing up reading with folks too, and consolidating that, because that's a big time saver, and you learn a lot more because sometimes you just can't get to all the reading because it's the reality of life. But that was a big struggle. I was sad for a while, and I was down, and it's hard because a lot of like the culture we live in. I actually turned off my Facebook in October of last year, and I have not turned it back on yet. I'm realizing that it's an actual very useful tool to have in this field, and that it's necessary. So eventually I will be back on Facebook before I go into the job search. But part of that reason was I think it felt like everyone else around me was doing great, and everyone was happy, and that made me feel even more like, whoa, why is this all happening right now? And so it was kind of overwhelming. But now to talk about my success was realizing that we have a diverse amount of people that are in this program from all different walks of life, coming from all different parts of the country, and coming from all different parts of their career. And I learned that it's no benefit to yourself to sit around and think like, oh my gosh, I can't believe so-and-so is doing this, and this person's doing that, and this person, what am I doing for my career? Like, how am I benefiting my career? It is really easy to do that because there's a lot of people doing a lot of amazing things in our program. In a lot of different departments. And so, but I think what you need to learn to do, what I learned to do, is like have confidence in the fact that you are getting a lot out of this program yourself, and whatever internship or whatever assistantship or whatever fieldwork you're in at that time, it is really beneficial and will be something that you'll be able to talk about and make you really hireable later on. And it takes a while to get there, and believe me, by the time the 2 years are up, you will have plenty of things to talk about for a job search that will get you whatever job.
Thank you. So, I guess speaking to that, like, all these different positions, things you're doing around campus, can you speak to, I guess, some of the choices you made, whether relating to what electives you chose, whether you chose like the thesis route or seminar, or even field work? Like, how did you choose those certain things? Because those are, and even assistantship positions, like, why did you choose to apply and go into those positions that you want to do, or that you're doing right now, or have done? So,
I'll go first this time. I'll talk about three things. One was, I know res life for me, I was an RA, like I said, and so that's a field and an area I want to go into. So I've been intentional about the kinds of things that I've chosen to do with that. There's like multiple But one thing I did very intentionally with that was I chose to do the Kuhawaii internship over the summertime, which is an amazing program if you get the opportunity to do it. I went all the way out to Pennsylvania, and something that people really value in this field is, for better or for worse, is being able to leave where you're comfortable and going out somewhere else. And so it was amazing how much like cred I got out in Pennsylvania and the East Coast just for saying like I'm from California, and they're like, what the heck are you doing in Allentown? So that's cool. But so I did that internship, and that was a great experience to learn about other schools, and I was really intentional about where I went. I went to a small liberal arts school to get a different experience, to see what that's like. One fieldwork opportunity that I jumped on, because I didn't have an experience, a lot of our classes will talk about how big of a deal budgets are and having financial experience and working with large budgets and all those things. Yet, we don't have a required class for that. We do have an elective course that's only offered if you're here physically in the summertime. So that's a little tough. And so I saw an opportunity it was actually offered as an assistantship in the spring as a paid assistantship at the Marshall School of Business in their development office, which is like their fundraising office in downtown. So we have a satellite office in the AT&T building downtown. There's a lot of offices there. And so they offered it as like a 20-hour-a-week job. And I saw that as, oh my gosh, like I really want that experience because I have no idea what it's like to work in fundraising or development, and I really want that experience. And USC, if there's one thing USC does very well, it's fundraising. Especially in the School of Business. And so I saw that as an opportunity, and I reached out to them and offered myself as field work, and lo and behold, believe me, any office on campus that you want experience in, you go to them and you say like, hey, listen, I'll work for you for free, and I'm a grad student. There's no better package than that for them, so they will like just say, come in, like we'll figure something out, you know, and that's what happened. So I got to work one unit of field work over there, and it was a good experience to learn how they do things over there. And I had a third thing. I forgot it. So those are my two things.
I guess I'll go next then.
I remember. Sorry. Take the student athlete class. Talk to anyone in here who's a student athlete right now. Take that class. Even if you're not an athletics fan, like, man, you will become an athletics fan, or you will at least have a greater appreciation. Because that's another thing USC does very well, is athletics. We have an amazing history of athletics here, and you get the ins and outs. Like, my class just now, we just got an entire tour. The Galen Center, in and out of places no one will ever usually get to go unless you're an athlete. And then, like, one of our classes, just to highlight, we get to go to a football game, and we get to go on the field with passes, and we get to run out with the football team. Like, what? Super excited.
Okay, so for my field work, so like I told you with my background, I'm more into, the whole academic advising because of my mentor. So for my first unit of field work, I did academic advising at Annenberg School of Communication and Journalism. And then they wanted me back for the summer, but they didn't tell me soon enough. So I ended up working over in Dornside for orientation, and so that was a different experience too, just because the different schools are different with undecided versus students who know what they want to do. And then now for this last unit, I'm back in Annenberg for more academic advising. I'm also moving into the path of career advising as well, hence why I'm over at Pomona College in Claremont. And so I'm learning how to, career advise students. So if you guys need career help, I can help you with that. And as for my electives, I took the fiscal class in the summer just for funsies because I figured it would be, something that we would all need eventually. And then now I'm taking the academic advising course as well as disability, just because I feel like disability, like not a lot of students know about it, and so it's like interesting. It really is. So that's how I chose my electives, and yeah.
So I suppose I should probably talk about Thesis. I'm currently on the Thesis track. I think I'm one of two, unless somebody knows anybody else, people in our cohort who are doing it. I'll just talk about it very briefly since a lot of you probably aren't necessarily committing to it or not. But if you have any questions, ask now, or I'll hang out for a little bit after, or get in touch with me, whatever. Or you at home. But so everyone always asks me if I am doing the thesis because I want to get a PhD, and that's not untrue, but that's not the reason, because I actually wasn't planning on doing a PhD until partway through the first year, and then I thought, well, maybe actually it was ethno, I think, largely that was making me start to think maybe I want to do a PhD. But I came in because I'd never done a huge capstone like that in undergrad or anything like that. And I thought, this is a really big challenge that I want to tackle. And that's basically how I made that decision. If you go to the info session about it, I don't know, it's probably coming up later this week or next week or something, the overall message will probably be, are you really sure you want to do it? Because you probably don't want to do it. And the idea is that it is very time intensive and requires you to pretty much just do it, because it's not a class that you go to, it's just you do it. So, and as you can see, people get really busy. So it's a pretty big question. But yeah, that's how I made my decision. I said, well, why not?
Well, hello. I was a late applicant here, so by the time that I met my cohort, they all had jobs on campus, assistantships, and there was Allison, I think, didn't have anything, and I didn't realize people already had an orientation and that they signed up and they were in res life and doing all sorts of things. So I was scared right out of the gate because I was like, where am I going to get the experience? And then simultaneously, I realized that athletics is encompassed within student affairs, which I never knew. I thought it was its own entity, and at the same time, a posting came in for admissions and initial eligibility for an assistantship within athletics, and that drew my attention. I jumped on it, and I took it, especially because it's not just admissions, general admissions, it's specific, so now I can say on my resume or talk to employers, I've not only worked in admissions, but athletic admissions, so I have experience in both. We had a speaker, and I hope that the speaker comes to your class. I think it was in Politics of Difference, from UCI. Can you give me a name? He was LGBT. Yes. So he said something that stuck with me, and it's about pigeonholing yourself within student affairs, whether it's LGBT or Greek life or student life. And I was always drawn towards student life and Greek life. We have a lot of res ed people. I'm in res ed at the University of Laverne. I'm a resident director there. And I have no intention of doing res life down the road. However, it has so many, as they use it here, transferable skills. And especially because now I want to get into the judicial aspect. And it won't allow me, or it could allow me to still pigeonhole myself. But I'm involved with students, student life. I'm involved with Greek life. I'm involved with judicial conduct. I'm involved with all aspects within res life. So if I can make a suggestion to you guys, like I would definitely consider looking at res life just to get experience, because you're going to be able to tackle any questions that people give you. Have you done this? Have you done that? And you'll be able to answer it. And lastly, all the classes I chose were intentional. I made sure I took ethno my first year, because I knew I'd take management, which is offered in the spring first year, also in the summer, and I knew I'd be a whole class ahead come fall. Plus, I took 2 other classes in the summer, so my fall is seminar and athletics, which pretty manageable for a busy schedule like myself, and then in spring I have an elective and 2 units of field work, which I want to be able to enjoy my last semester with my cohort, and I want to be able to get right into the job market and do the job search and not have extra stresses on me. So take ethno in the fall or spring. When did we take it?
Spring.
Spring of your first year.
Right, my turn. Kind of going off of the some of our cohort took ethno during, they took it early, and some of us are taking it now. I'm sure you guys had a great experience too, but I definitely waited to take that course just because I wanted to take it with the professor who's teaching it, who's a significant person in our field, William Tierney, and you're going to read plenty of his articles. You're going to know like everything about him before you actually take class with him, and he sparkles and he's amazing. So I'm glad I'm taking that class with him.
This is recorded.
Oh, yeah. Well, he does sparkle. I mean, he's really nice. So it's really great taking that class with him so far. It's only, 4 weeks that we've had so far. So yes, I waited for that class. The other courses that I wanted to take physical, and I knew I was going to be around for the summer because of my because of one of my assistantships. So I knew that I wanted to take that course. And then I knew I wanted to take interventions in the spring so kind of my background, I'm currently working in judicial affairs with Andrew, and I also in judicial affairs I also work with Greek life, so I do like the event reviews, and I'm also kind of like the Greek liaison, so I see a lot of their lower cases, now seeing kind of more of the higher cases. So I have that experience, I have the conduct experience. Over in Marshall, where I work in student services, which is really great because in that office there's career advising, there's international programs, and there's student organizations. So I get to work on stuff for each of those aspects, which is really great because I get those experiences. So for when I've been searching for things, I've been looking for opportunities that don't just have one aspect. They're working with like different aspects of student life, student affairs, working in universities. So yeah, I have that, and then I also did the field work right after Casey. I was working in the development office, so things kind of came full circle where I was also working at Marshall. I was working in Marshall development office, and then I was taking fiscal. So I was like, oh, universities are business. They really are, in every way possible. But I think it also depends on what your career goals are, whether or not you are looking for that in a position. Whether you feel like you'll be comfortable managing budgets and doing that immediately out of grad school. Yeah. Oh, and then one of my fieldwork that I'm doing right now, I'm doing resume reviews. So the places that I know I don't have very much experience is res ed, but I'm not really interested in res ed. Kudos to those of you in res ed. But I know that's not something I'm interested in. And then academic advising and career advising. Academic advising is also kind of hosted in student services, just the physical space. And from that experience, I know that's not something I'm interested in, but I know it's something, that advising experience is something that that's really important to have, just because if you're looking for a position, a lot of positions have like combination things that you're doing. So you're working on programming, you're working on advising, you're working on a bunch of different things. So at least having that experience, so that's why I'm doing resume reviews.
I also just wanted to highlight one thing too, just to give another option of how you can take control of your coursework too, is I decided to not take ethno in the fall, and I'm waiting until my last semester to take ethno in the spring with one other elective, because I know that course, from what I've heard and talked to folks, that it's a pretty time-intensive course. And so I opted to take it with one elective in the spring. But I did that because I knew that my fall this semester would be really heavy for me, and I wanted to make sure I took seminar in the fall because it's a great course to have, in my opinion, before you head into the job search. But I say that just to give you an idea of the fact that you do have the ability to take control of your own, while there is a track for everybody, or that they've highlighted for us to take, you have the ability to take control of your own coursework. I know there's other people in our class or our cohort who have like completely, like Caitlin, for instance, I'm calling her out, but she like didn't take anything this summertime and is now taking her own statistics course through another thing. So there's a multitude of ways. I know other people have decided to cross-pollinate with other coursework they've taken in other programs. Was that the wrong word to use?
I like it.
I was thinking of you, Shante, actually, on how you used your master's program to. Anyway.
I can't see without my. I can't hear without my glasses.
That makes so much more sense now. No, I mean.
But also to go off of what Casey is saying, you do have a lot of control because I took ethno in the spring. I'm actually graduating December. So this is my last semester here. So you're actually able to finish in a year and a half if you really want to.
Yes! Well, thank you, panelists. Now, is there any other advice? I know you've given a lot so far. Is there any other type of advice you want to put out? If not, then we'll go to Q&A. Then we'll go to Q&A.
Wait, I have something.
Sure.
I think it's really helpful to have your resume reviewed. And this is not me because I'm doing resume reviews, but have your resume reviewed by the people that you're doing your assistantships with, by faculty that you know, by your peers. Keep having it looked over because everyone has so many different perspectives, and some perspectives are a little bit more helpful than others, but it's really important to reach out to those people in your professionals that are around you. A lot of people, you'd be surprised if you ask them, like, oh, like, what's your background? They're like, oh, I was in the PASA program. They're like, oh, I've been working with you for like 2 months and I didn't know this. So feel free to reach out to those people and have your resume, keep updating it. It's going to save you when you know all of a sudden that fieldwork position comes up and you're like, I haven't touched my resume in like 3 months. And you need to submit it like the next day, so just keep on top of that.
Yes, I have something too. Although the semester can get kind of stressful, always remember, to have fun. And with that being said, next Friday we're doing a free barbecue karaoke night, so you guys should come on out.
I have one more piece of advice too. If there's somewhere you know you want to work and get experience, be persistent. Like I said with my example of what I did with the Marshall School, like I got that because I was persistent. Like it almost didn't work out because I figured it out like 3 weeks into the semester, and that was almost the cutoff time for not adding the class. And it worked out because I kept pushing it. And I also have another assistantship that I work at the Korchak Center. And that I wouldn't have gotten that job unless I was persistent with someone who had just said, like, hey, you might be possibly a good person that could work at the Korchak Center, but there was no jobs. And so I just followed up and sort of forced an interview. And that was awkward, but it worked out. So.
Kind of in the note of what Sarah was saying, you'll have a lot of faculty and guest speakers from various campuses who will just sort of blatantly say, hey, if you need any help with anything or want any advice or whatever, reach out to me. Odds are they're not lying because they work in the same field that you want to work in, which is all about helping people. So take advantage of that. Even if they don't say it, reach out to them if you think that there's something that you want to get out of that connection. Like there was a guest speaker that we had in one of our politics of difference classes actually, and I just reached out to him because his job sounded really interesting, and I just wanted to know a little bit more about figuring out career path and what his thoughts were on it. And he was more than happy to meet with me, which almost kind of surprised me. But reach out.
We almost went straight to Q&A because nobody had anything to say, so I will say something as well. I'm going to piggyback off of what Andrew said, and it's informational interviews. That's a big thing that we talked about in Ethno, and they're great. If you see something that you're interested in, reach out to the person and just be like, hey, my name's Alan. I'm a first-year PASA student at USC. I read the job description here at your school, and your job, it interests me, and I was wondering if you can, like, talk to me about it. Would you be able to get coffee? Would you be able to talk to me on the phone? Can I meet you? Something along those lines, and 99% of the time they'll be willing to, and it's worked out for me, and I've enjoyed the people that I've gotten the chance to meet. Also, ask questions. My first year down here, I was in the basement every day. Like I lived down there, I was always reading, studying, watching movies on my iPad, anything. And we'd always have a few second years in there, and I'd always ask them questions. And Vanessa and Bree were usually down there all the time, and they helped you. They would calm my nerves, and they would help me out. And talk to the second years, talk to your cohort, and have fun. That's the biggest thing. Like, it does not feel like we're in our second year already. Last year went by way too quick. So don't get all teary-eyed over there. But have fun. That's the biggest thing. And we will go to Q&A now. Right?
Any questions?
Like right now, like Tracy was sign out a job, but a lot of them ask for a 2-year commitment, and they want to get as much experience as you guys been saying. How do you ask them like how do you go about that? If anyone's gone about that, and after the 2-year commitment.
I know for me, for the judicial position, ours is definitely a 2-year commitment, and they say that up front. And for us, I know at the end of the first year, it was kind of assumed that we were coming back the second year, but they did ask. So even though you're putting this 2-year commitment, I guess essentially there's no contract. It's just expectation. I think it's also something to consider looking at what the job responsibilities are. I know for us, for our office, I wouldn't have left because it would have severely impacted the way the office works because of the amount of training we go through, just because we had the office going through transition as well. So it would have just like shut things down if one of us would have left. So that's how like I considered that, and because I'm very connected to the office. I mean, our office is very friendly, and we're kind of like family. We're there to support each other all the time. But also in my other position, it was initially asked for a 1-year commitment, and that's kind of been like, that hasn't really been discussed. They just kind of assume that I'm coming back the next semester. But always know that you're in control of where you're at. You always have the ability to say no, and you always have the ability to leave. I don't know, that's just something I've learned in life. You have always the ability to walk out the door. So.
2 things I'd like to say about the 2-year thing. One kind of countering a little bit with what you're saying, not disagreeing with you by any means, but with the idea, and Sarah was talking about this also, of like if she had left S-Jax, I would have been angry. But it's important to recognize also that you are already working in the field, right? And even in your classes, you're working with the people you're going to be working with. So just in general, bear that in mind. So even if you were to leave something that was more meant to be 2 years, or where they wanted to be 2 years, make sure that you do it in a way that is graceful and not burning bridges, because the whole student affairs world is relatively small and tight-knit, and even if you don't end up working with those people in the future, you'll probably be working with someone who knows them. And so you just want to make sure that you're always maintaining good relations, and I think you can do that in leaving a job as well, but just making sure that they understand what your needs are and why you're making those choices and so forth. And then as far as 2-year commitments in general, I'm really happy to have that with S-Jax, because I think it's a really good experience there. And I think being able to demonstrate that much 2 years worth of experience in a really potent field, I think will be beneficial. And as you've heard, a lot of people will have 2 or 3 things even at a time. Considering that if you have one thing that you're doing for 2 years, you still have kind of extra room where you could be doing one other thing and kind of change it around.
I just want to echo that too, is that a lot of times it feels like, especially when you first start out, being a grad student in a department doesn't feel like you have a lot of control or a lot of ability to do things. But given being in a position for 2 years, I would suggest too, like making that experience your own and taking leadership roles within that organization and re-evaluating your role and taking on projects within that department that can develop your skill set, like assessments. It's like the hottest word. And you can get experience doing that. And then also know that I just want to echo too, like if you have the reason and it's beneficial for your career, like people are very understanding and they understand why you might need to transition out. So just communicating that. It'll work out.
I'd be vocal. Athletics told me, they're like, we need somebody for 20 hours a week. It's a semester to a year position. And I just emailed them and I was like, there's no way I could do 20 hours a week, but I'd really enjoy being in your office. And is there anything that I can do, or is there any way you guys could work with me and I could work with you to be able to do 10 hours a week? And they said yes. So they hired 2 of us, 10 hours a week, and I was able to do that. So be vocal. Just email them, shoot a text, call them. Yeah, just email them or give them a call. And the fact that you're expressing interest, they'll be glad that you're doing that.
Any other questions?
Would you recommend us to do 2 GAships our first or second semesters and/or second semester?
I just did the one for the entire first year, and certainly for the first semester especially, I'm glad I did just the one. Personally.
For me, I didn't have any graduate assistantships at all up until this year, because the rest was field work and me working at my usual job at UCLA. So don't feel pressured to have 2.
I think evaluate where you need to fill in your holes for your resume, what your career goals are, and also be very honest with yourself about what you can do and what you're capable of. I know for me, I'm used to being very busy and I'm more productive when I'm super busy, but that's not how everyone is. So just be honest with yourself. A lot of your first year, a lot of your grad school is going to be a lot about reflection.
Comes back for me, identifying your limitations. Looking back on that, I'm glad I didn't have multiple GAships. I was already busy and consumed in my personal life. That would have just added unwarranted stress. So yeah, identify areas that you need to grow. And then also, say you have 1 GAship, those areas that you need to grow, see if you can grow in those areas within the GAship, that create new ideas, do something innovative. And if you can do something within the current GAship, that might lead to the possibility of a job opportunity right there. They'll create a position.
Are there any questions from the audience? Second years, any questions?
Any questions?
Our viewer online left.
Oh,
wait, no, they're back. This will be a YouTube video later, so they can watch later.
Well, if there's no more questions, just one final thing. I'm gonna throw a curveball. 3 words to describe your first year of PASA.
Do they have to?
They don't have to make sense. Yeah.
Oh, they don't have to make sense.
Yeah. Well, they should make sense, but real words. Yeah. English principles.
Okay, I guess I'll go first then. So any 3 words?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna say busy, manageable, and possible.
So corny. So cute.
All right. So I'll top that by spiting Tim Koo over and through.
Okay.
That's right, Martin. Spice our whole lives. You do.
Joie de vivre.
Oh, Lord.
Hey. Right? So, for those of you who might know, it's a French expression that also occasionally happens in English. That's basically joy of life. And so I think that's important. I think we've kind of all touched on that a little bit, of finding time for that joy of life, making sure you don't overwhelm yourself so much that you can't.
3 words.
What?
You went over your thing.
There's a lot more than 3 words.
Oh, what did you say?
Hey.
Fine, what a beat, just figure it out. No explanation.
3 words, Alan.
And loco parentis.
That says a lot about all these people.
Big clap.
Okay, I'll just have to be honest. Tired, running, and uncomfortable.
She's keeping it real.
I'll say busy, uncomfortable at times as well, and then accomplished stuff.
All right. Well, as you can see, we only have like 5 panelists, second and third. Like, there's so many second and third years that have. We all have like different experiences, but I think at the end of the day, like we're all learning, we're all challenged, we're busy, but we're also gaining experience. And I think if you do sit down with each of us individually, you'll get as rich information as our panelists here. So I just want to thank everyone for coming. Thank you, the panelists. Thanks, Arlen, for setting it up. And make it possible. Before we end, I have a few announcements. So we're going to try to do these kind of professional development workshops monthly. So our next topic will be kind of just off-campus job opportunities, field work experiences off-campus. So look out for that. Andy, are you planning it?
Me and Michelle.
Michelle and Andy will be planning it. Once again, next Friday, Korean barbecue and karaoke. That should be a fun time. On the Facebook event, please fill out the doodle. Vanessa needs to make reservations. First year liaison elections will be coming up. Keep your eyes open for that. We'll be announcing soon what that entails. Alumni Google Hangout. Submit your questions. The next topic will be how to maximize your conference experiences. Going off of that, there are a few conferences coming up. I think in a few weeks, Spirituality and Higher Education, featuring Arthur Chickering and Aston. I forgot his first name. Alexander Aston. They'll be somewhere.
Long Beach.
Long Beach. They'll be at Long Beach. It's on the Facebook.
I'll be going.
But actually, I do want to play up the Western Regional Student Affairs Day at Azusa Pacific, October 25th. Tracy encouraged us as a program to go, just to really network with other people. So please sign up. I think it's 25 for students. And we're gonna upload kind of like a sign-up sheet, so just to see who's going and then who might we can work on carpools. And also Western Regional Conference in Anaheim's coming up, November 9th to 12th.
Sounds more expensive.
It's a little more expensive, it's like $140, but it's 4 days. You could probably ask for conference funding through GSG. I don't know the details for that. Figure it out. Yeah. So if y'all plan on going, we're gonna upload some documents for you to fill out. And then there's also other conferences coming out. There's the ASH conference in Nakata National. That's all on the PASA Network calendar. I don't think a lot of us are thinking about going there, but if you're interested in like research or academic advising, Nakata and ASH.
Nakata's in Hawaii.
Ooh.
And Ash is in DC.
Yeah, so if y'all want to do that. But yeah, so we're going to keep doing this. We're going to be making announcements at these meetings. But there are a few like things that are coming up that I'm blanking on right now.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Take your time.
Thank you all for coming and observing.